You know why I talked to the Seattle Seawolves? Because they're winners. You know why I went out with them the night after? Because they won. Rugby Wrap Up brought to you in part by The Balanced Palate, nutrition for peak performance, and the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street, the world's best rugby pub. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap Up. Matt McCarthy at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 in Midtown Manhattan, and I am sunburned, exhausted, happy, a little bit hoarse, not much though, considering that I had no voice before we started this show, and it's all because of the epic championship final for Major League Rugby in San Diego. The Seattle Seawolves are now two-time champions. And there's only been 2 championships in the league to date. And the San Diego Legion, they were just amazing. And the stadium was amazing. There was all these fans. It couldn't have been better. If Hollywood scripted it, we'd all be laughing and saying there's no way that would be real. But it is real. And another thing that is real is Mr. Shalom Suniula, the 2-time captain of the 2-time champion Seattle Seawolves, on the horn with us right now. Shalom, congratulations, 2 in a row.
Yes, it was a great final, and it was an incredible atmosphere. I'm still lost for words, to be honest. It hasn't really sunk in.
You know, Shalom, when Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, he goes to Disneyland or Disney World. You're the captain of the champion Seawolves. You're going to Alaska.
Yes, that's right, Matt. We're doing a community engagement. This was always something that we were doing, regardless win or lose. And engaging with our community here in the Pacific Northwest. We're doing it by doing the clinic, and a couple of the guys, the teammates, are going up there, and we're going to take the shield with us and just share all the hard work with them and enjoy it with the community.
All right, so you've got the shield, right? And it's a heavy thing to carry, and it's flat. It's not like the Stanley Cup, and you've got a bunch of Canadians on your team that love hockey, and they know the stories of the Stanley Cup being taken around, drinking out of it. You can't drink out of a shield. And perhaps, is it true that they had this by design, that it was too heavy and that you couldn't consume a whole bunch of adult beverages out of it? Was this by design?
That's a good point. I'm not too sure. I could tell you from experience that it's a bit lighter than last year's shield, so I think they've changed that up a little bit, and not really sure how to celebrate with that thing. Besides, it's just a hassle to carry around. Wasn't sure whether to check it in, take it on, whether it fit on the plane. So yeah, it's quite an interesting shield, and I think we'll try and figure out how to take it around and celebrate it with us.
All right, so it is a different shield. I thought it was a little bit too light. I was jockeying it, and I was like, no, this wasn't the one from last year.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely is a different shield from last year. Same look, same design, but just a bit lighter, which is nice.
So what do you do with these things? Will these 2 slabs/shields end up on a wall together someplace?
I presumably so. I mean, I think there'll be some touring going around with it, and then I think that they could just end up next to each other. That's a good point at the Seawolves office.
Okay, let's get back to the game. I know that you got to rush because you're literally flying to Alaska. So I got to ask you, what's your perspective on the Joe Peterson drop goal? Because there is a handful, maybe 2 or 3 players in the league that could do that under that pressure with that ice in their veins. And I'm just wondering if that excellence actually came back to haunt him. And it's because people are saying, oh, well, if he doesn't kick that or doesn't attempt to kick that drop goal, it's going to be a whole different series of events, and San Diego holds on and wins. What's your take on that?
My first comment about Joe Peterson, he is a class player. He's definitely a quality player that's lifted the standard of the MLI as a whole this year. In regards to the final, it's a double-edged sword. I think he kicks that drop kick and they nailed their exit, and we forced an error again on our part. It's a different. Nobody will be saying that. My heart did sink when he got that drop kick, and I didn't realize we had just over 2 minutes to go. And we still had some breathing room, but for a second there, I thought, his kicking game really hurt us that entire final, and it was his accuracy, and he's just a clinical player. And so, again, going back to that, if you remember the game up in Seattle, they kind of just did pistons and ran the clock down. You could argue if they had gone that route, then they would have won the game and frustrated us at the right part of the game. So yeah, it could have gone either way easily.
Okay, but I would argue that he made the kick and they got the ball back. Nobody foresaw what was going to happen after that, and particularly the end with the try with you guys with the all-in-one and kitchen sink rolling maul for the try. That was just there's no way we could have seen that.
We at the kickoff, it was we regathered, regrouped ourselves, and we knew that once we had kicked off pretty deep, we'd get a line out somewhere around the halfway or just before, and then we had one more roll at the dice, and then once we had that high tackle penalty kick for the corner, we just hedged all our bets and just put all our chips in, and if this maul comes right, let's all go in and just believe, that we call it, just believe.
Absolutely crazy, and I was just feet away from it with my camera shooting it, so I know, and I said that this to Brian Ray. I know it was real because I shot it and I saw it. But it was just crazy. But a couple of breaking things in Major League Rugby. Alf Daniels has been let go as the Utah Warriors head coach, and Samu Manoa has announced that he's retiring from international rugby, but he'll be staying with you guys. So he won't be competing in the Japan World Cup, unfortunately. But he's happy, and that's all that really matters right now. So that's one thing. But there's a potential scenario that you guys will have your fourth head coach in 3 years if Richie Walker doesn't come back. What do you think of Phil Mack filling in as a head coach in a permanent basis? Would he be able to command the room and do the job?
Honestly, that's tough to comment on right now. I'm just not sure where all that side of things is going. I mean, yeah, it's tough to say right now. Hypothetically, if he was the coach, I think he'll be a fantastic coach. If hopefully if Richie stays around, he'll also be. There's a lot of learnings to take out of this year, and we can all get better for it. I think either way, from the playing side of things, if the core group can just stay together for one more year, I think we'll definitely have a bigger targets on our back. But I think from the playing side of things, again, there's enough maturity there to kind of drive the standards from the player side of things, from a player standpoint. Not to say that the coaches are not important, but they also have an intricate role to play, especially with the group of guys that we have here.
So how cool was this one with Roland, your brother, on the team with you, and your brother Andrew, who plays for the Elite and is now kind of in an administrative role as well, in the stadium with you?
It was awesome, man. Like I said, to share those moments with them, and especially having my wife and my daughter there, because they weren't there last year. These moments don't come around too often, and you'll always reflect back and just remember. And memories are much better when shared with loved ones.
You are remarkably calm and reserved after winning that championship. You guys did go crazy on the pitch and had a good time that night. But what was the difference between this one and the last one?
I think the biggest difference from last year to this year was the physicality and the speed. And the skill level went up, and that has largely to do with the standard of foreigners that were brought in by various teams, which lifted the standard as a whole. So you had to get a bit more creative and a bit more, not necessarily creative, but a bit more clinical at the basic stuff. The key core skills of the game and the game management, most of all.
You brought up Joe Peterson earlier, and he had arguably the most difficult job in the world addressing the room that was the post-game function. It had fans from both teams, players and management, and he had to get up there and talk after that devastating loss, and he did so impeccably. And then you followed it up and did just as well.
Yeah, no, that speaks of Joe's personality and his character. He's a mighty competitor on the field, but then off the field, his sportsmanship is not like none other. And I think those are the values of the game that we need to continue. Hopefully, the young guys within the groups, each team, and all the teams can see that, and that's the standard that we have, especially as the MLR is growing and rugby is growing in this country.
All right, last question. When does the work for the three-peat begin?
It begins straight away. We're on the way to Alaska, and we're going to inspire some young youth and engage with the community and share the values of rugby and all the and celebrate with everybody. So it begins straight away, and I think training begins again later in the fall. So we'll enjoy it while we can for now, and then get stuck back into it when it's time.
All right, my friend. Enjoy escorting that shield/slab around. You earned every minute of it, and I just look forward to the next time we can get together.
Thanks, Matt. Always a pleasure.
On that note, on behalf of Mr. Shalom Suniula, the two-time captain of the two-time Major League Rugby champion Seattle Seawolves, I'm Matt McCarthy for Rugby Wrap Up at the Fantasy Sports Network Studio 34 in New York City, signing off.